In this, our second ever Furthermore video, we're gonna talk about some developments in areas related to previous Idea Channel episodes. After our discussion with Michael about 3D printing and copyright, I thought it might be fun to revisit, in this order, the copyright status of Happy Birthday and the legality of modifying copy-protected software in your own car, or tractor, as the case may be. And to ask, finally, have we learned nothing? Because maybe we haven't. I'm kind of with you, Kei. But first, HBD. If you want all the details, you can go check out our episode on the topic, but the long and short of it is that it was thought for a very long time the rights to Happy Birthday to You were sold to a music publisher, who sold it to another, who sold it to another, and after sales on sales on sales, music industry giant Warner Chappell Music became its owner, until its protection expires in 2030 in the US and December 31st, 2016 in Europe. They made some $2 million a year on licensing a song sung so widely and freely, except at Outback Steakhouse, that it's bizarre to think that it's not public property.
How come we only sang the last two words? What happened to the happy birthday part?
And it wasn't. That is, not until February 2016. Release the 4-month late celebration balloons. So, what happened? In 2013, a year after our original episode, filmmaker Jennifer Nelson brought a lawsuit against Warner Chappell. She was working on a documentary about Happy Birthday to You and its history, and was told by Warner Chappell she must license the song for $1,500. Nelson questioned the legality of such a license, and so, helped by the research of Robert Brown Eyes, who we quoted in our episode and whose work we'll link to in the doobly-doo, Nelson and her legal team filed, and after nearly a 3-year battle, won a lawsuit against Warner Chappell. Sorta. As is normally the case with copyright, there are tons of weeds to get into if you want to get into the weeds. Links. In sum, back in September of 2015, US District Judge George H. King ruled that Warner had never legally acquired a license to Happy Birthday to You's lyrics. This meant the suit would go to trial to determine the outcome of Judge King's findings. But before the suit ever got to trial, Warner settled. The settlement was announced in December 2015 and finalized on February 8th of 2016. Warner will pay $14 million, 2/3 of which will be distributed amongst the participants in Nelson's class action suit, some of whom paid for unnecessary licenses as far back as 1949. Had Warner gone to trial and been ruled against, which it seems would have been the case, there's a high likelihood they'd have paid much, much more. More importantly though, as Judge King originally found, Warner holds zero claim to the song, meaning Happy Birthday to You is fully in the public domain, available for free use by all. Meaning, whatever our new birthday tradition becomes by 2030, we'll have the option of singing Happy Birthday, no matter the context. In celebration of this, I figured I might sing Happy Birthday to you. But since I don't know your name, I have to guess. But if I'm limited to only one name, this video won't be meaningful to most people. But I can't make like 50 videos. So here's me singing Happy Birthday to those of you with 50 of the most popular names worldwide at the same time. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cecilia. Happy birthday to you. Also, as of last month, the same team that went after Warner Chappell for Happy Birthday is now going after music publishers The Richmond Organization and their imprint Ludlow Music Incorporated. They're attempting to get We Shall Overcome, the famous protest song and anthem of the civil rights movement, put into the public domain. The song was made famous by Pete Seeger and Joan Baez, but has roots in the early 19th century as a song sung by a Tennessee tobacco workers union, possibly adapted from a hymn of some significant, complicated history. I'll put some links in the doobly-doo if you want to know more about that. Now, on to tractors. She thinks my tractor's sexy. Which you are legally permitted to leet hacksaw. Back in September of 2015, we asked if everything wouldn't be better open sourced and used as our case study the repair process for farm equipment, specifically tractors and automobiles. As CPUs have found their way into cars, repairing them has become more complex. In one way, because mending a sick Benz means now knowing about its combustion guts and electronic brain. And in another way, because that electronic brain was protected by the DMCA, a set of laws which put those caught tampering with copy protection, which was necessary to operate on car CPUs if you aren't the manufacturer or licensed by them, at legal risk, unless it's an open source ecology life track. However, on October 27th, 2015, a mere 9 weeks after our episode, the United States Library of Congress, which oversees the Copyright Office, deemed that copy protection on cars, much like copy protection on phones, serves as a detriment to consumers' interests, not a benefit. It ruled that no legal action can be brought to people who tinker with their tractor's electronic tickers, or tickers of any vehicle for that matter. Everyone has the right to repair. We're out of balloons, so. While this doesn't mean these systems become free, as in either speech or beer, they're not open source, they can't be repackaged, reused, or resold. This is still huge for the car repair industry and hobbyists, as well as researchers, academics, and policy people. Wolf Lordy gets into some of why this is a fine compromise in a really great comment from a few months back. As it stood, before this recent decision, people could only get into the nitty-gritty of certain machine operations if they were okay with significant legal risk associated with breaking copy protection. On the heels of a massive scandal where it was found Volkswagens were essentially faking their emissions output, leading to economic, ecological, and ethical uproar, we can see now how giving researchers and experts access to buggy brains could be highly beneficial while not getting into territory that Evi V is concerned with. Of course, automaker associations, manufacturers, and even the Environmental Protection Agency say that this is a terrible idea, citing, ironically, that it means people could falsify data about their car or have it operate in an unsafe or ecologically disastrous manner. The Electronic Frontier Foundation points out that might be true, but copyright protection isn't the set of laws we should be using to make sure cars are safe and have a reasonable carbon footprint. It's like using FDA food safety regulations to police financial institutions. I know, we sometimes call money cheese, but that's just not how the law works. Unfortunately, though, there is a pothole on the road to open access. The ruling will be revisited again in 3 years when the Library of Congress decides, again, what things are and are not protectable, as part of a process and system which is definitely not arcane or broken. Oh, which reminds me, did you know that the code for medical devices like pacemakers and insulin pumps is also protected by the DMCA? In February of last year, security researcher Jay Radcliffe commented on the Copyright Office's enthrallingly titled Exemptions to Prohibition Against Circumvention of Technological Measures Protecting Copyrighted Works, and said, because of the DMCA, as much as 40% of the computer code in these medical devices remains untested for safety by independent security experts. I am confident that I would find serious flaws in some or all of these devices if the DMCA did not prevent my research. In May of 2016, the EFF filed comments with the FDA explaining how, why, and that medical device manufacturers protecting their technology under the DMCA is having perhaps unintended, but no less potentially disastrous effects on medical technology and therefore people's bodies. They're increasingly cyborgian, officially living in the dystopian transhumanist nightmare of a cyberpunk future bodies. People with implanted medical devices. Have we learned nothing? The hope, I think, is that we have, and are. The law continually, it seems, allows for a more open future where reasonable accessibility of culture, technology, and knowledge about those things is the status quo and not something that needs to be fought over. Such a fight becomes especially meaningful and necessary when, as we saw with this Furthermore video and our 3D printing episode, pre-existing laws end up applied to technology they were never meant to, or they're extended indefinitely to protect works for a period of time far beyond their original goal of incentivizing creation. Maybe these cases presage an even minuscule shift towards openness and sane regulation, or maybe not, and Mickey Mouse won't end up freely accessible until he somehow programmatically controls the emissions on your European station wagon. That does it for this Furthermore episode. Let me know what y'all think about happy birthday to you, the right to repair, and related topics in the comments. There will not be a comment response video for this video, but that doesn't mean we can't hang out and have a rad conversation. Let me know what your 2030 birthday traditions will be in the comments. In this week's comment response video, we talk about your thoughts regarding Dark Souls and the Soulsian. If you wanna watch that one, you can click here or find a link in the doobly-doo. In case you missed it, you can now buy an Idea Channel Postmodernism hat. You can find those on dftba.com. We'll put a link in the description to that as well. Also on this Friday, we will be announcing the 3 winners of the Pomo hat promo challenge giveaway. So that's on the way too. If you're going to VidCon, we'll see you there in a couple weeks. We'll put a schedule for all the things that we're gonna be doing in the description as well. We have a Facebook, an IRC, and a subreddit. Links in the doobly-doo. And the tweet of the week comes from Empress Triple Threat, who points us towards a review of Dark Souls that compares it to tourism, that compares it to Disneyland, because so many people have been to these places that comprise the Dark Souls series of games. It's hard to have an experience of it that is original in some way, and so it feels like tourism, and this was a really great read. It's super interesting, highly recommended. And last but certainly not least, this week's episode would not have been possible or good without the very hard work of these big cheeses.